right, Michelle, thanks. In fact, stay right there. Let's talk about this, whether or not things eventually shake out, talk about some of the specific business opportunities that might exist in Cuba.
Joining us also in this conversation, Peter Quinter, an attorney with GrayRobinson and the former legal counsel for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Service in Miami. Peter's leading a team of 38 Florida lawyers on a trip to Cuba this week. So is today a setback in your mission to Cuba with business leaders?
We are very excited about going to Cuba on Wednesday through Saturday. This is not a setback. The next few years will be challenging for both the Cuban administration and the Obama administration. Years from now, 5 years from now, we'll look back at this time and think what a great thing it was that these negotiations did take place and that they will result in the U.S. Embassy opening in Cuba and the U.S. flag flying in Havana.
Michelle, you and I talk about this all the time. Expectations are very high, but the hurdles still remain, and most of them are in Cuba, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's still a U.S. embargo, so doing a lot of business down there is still illegal. Second, it's not clear that if the embargo went away, the Cuban government wants business down there. They've said for years that they welcome foreign investment, but remember, every other country in the world can invest in Cuba, but there's actually very little foreign direct investment in Cuba because they have a lot of very anti-capital laws in place and regulations, whether it's the taxation that they put on when it comes to hiring local population to work. I mean, the employment taxes there are the worst in the world. There's all kinds of things that mean that a business owner wouldn't want to necessarily start a business there or invest. An investor wouldn't necessarily want to invest in there.
So, Peter, how are you handling those challenges?
Well, there are definitely challenges. There isn't a Cuba embargo by the United States, but there are many exceptions, and there has been significant business between U.S. companies and the Cuban companies, which will expand. As you probably know, President Obama in January loosened the embargo a little bit, allowing for a little bit more trade. So I think that there are several industries which will grow quickly once the embargo again is reduced.
And another problem, Peter, maybe it is the biggest problem, is just the lack of infrastructure in Cuba to begin this process. What are you and your lawyer friends hoping to accomplish when you go there next week? What's the objective when you get there?
Well, we are meeting with government officials from Cuba. We're meeting with also the legal community in Cuba. And basically my counterpart, the international law section of the Florida Bar counterpart in Havana. We're hoping to have a greater understanding of the legal system in Cuba and educate them about our legal system.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, I guess, and this is in stark contrast to so much optimism that we hear about the potential for this market. I saw Carlos Gutierrez on Squawk Box, I think this morning or earlier in the week, the former Commerce Secretary, this morning it was. It's been a long day, talking about how it could be the next Singapore.
Yeah, it's possible if they did all the right things. Look, it's 11 million people. It's completely untapped. They're hungry for consumer goods. They need more cans of paint than you can imagine. Is there opportunity there? Absolutely, there is. The question is, how is it all going to play out? When your guest talks about, the opportunities, these different businesses that can go down there, yeah, there can be telecom down there. There can be more internet down there. But the Cuban government's been allowed to buy those products from other countries, and they haven't done so. When learning about the legal system in Cuba, remember, every single lawyer in Cuba still works for the Cuban government because that is one of the sectors of the economy that the Cuban government says they're still going to control.
And what do you make of that, Peter? I mean, I know you're mindful of that, but, they don't exactly have what we would call a free market system set up over there.
Exactly true, but I look at it as the way you should have looked at China. 30 years ago, all the Chinese lawyers worked for the Chinese government. Now, China is the #1 trading partner with the state of Florida and one of the top 3 with the United States. I hope the 11 million people in Cuba will also understand the benefits of a free government, democracy, capitalism, and trade with us. As I said, 5 years from now, we will look back at this as a water break period.
Mr. Quinter puts his finger right on a key question that many are asking right now. Is Cuba right now China 1980? Is this the moment where it's really changing? We don't know yet.
All right, let's all gather again in 30 years and decide whether that can. All right, you got it. Michelle, thank you as always. Peter Quinter, thank you for joining us today. Good luck. Let us know how the trip goes next week.
Thank you very much.
You bet.